shall we?
Is that the Inquisitor?
A mage? No, there must be some mistake.
From the Circle of Ostwick, so they say.
Here the choice you made at the start of the game, your character to be a mage, comes under fire. This is all good as it's seen as a weakness in the grand game, and directly challenges one of our choices simply for existing. Weaknesses in protagonists are not only basic storytelling, they're essential to building drama. How the characters deal with such conflicts determines their arc, the choices they make, and what kind of character they turn out to be. In this instance, we lose court approval immediately. Unfortunately, there's no way to challenge or argue this, or allow this to be a psychological or moral conflict with our character. You just lose approval. That's it. It's never brought up in any gameplay or challenging context. Mages and elves are simply bad, but only in the gameplay and context of the setting, not in any of the characters or the story where it should be. Green Hand Guy here doesn't really care. If a protagonist is not constantly having his or her psychology or morals being challenged, then we either need a new character or we run the risk of not feeling anything for our character who simply shrugs off challenges like they're nothing. Does this even bother him? Is he a rock? Who knows? Thus, the story is lame and missing the basics. Static bricks are bad forms of writing.
Pardon me, my lord. You haven't seen a ring lying around, have you? It was a gift from the Countess Montbelliard, enchanted by the Fomari. I cannot go into the ball without it.
And by the power of our magical sonar device, or our multiplayer, single-player, online, offline game direction button, we find a noblewoman's non-described yet enchanted ring, because she's extremely blind wearing that mask. This is curious, as enchantment involves magic, and the Orlesians don't like mages. We just lost some points as a result of that. Unless they simply like expensive baubles, and magic is considered an outlawed thing, and it's maybe, risque.
Is this ring particularly valuable?
Its worth in coin is not as important as its social value.
This is interesting because this noble lady here is aware that in the grand game, appearances are everything. This sets the stage for what kind of choices in gameplay we should be looking out for. We also, of course, have the option of selling this thing later. Having a binary is normal RPG stuff, so everything's looking fine. Not great, not horrific, but passable. This is an easy gimme to the player here. Giving the ring back gives us a +5 to reputation. But is money really more pressing than the problem at hand if we wanted to sell this thing? I don't know. Now, how this works, I really can't say. It makes sense with an individual, like when you give Morrigan or Liliana objects they desire, and our GUI just knows the secret values within their hearts. Here, the entire public gestalt, or their collective opinion of you, is suddenly increased. I really don't like what that implies as a concept, but I think we can agree returning someone's property they're looking for is always a morally good thing. The question is, how does everyone else instantly know this, that you did this sort of altruistic thing for this random person? The game then tells us we gained approval, which is usually a result of finesse, being entertaining, or keeping up appearances. These three things which are completely unrelated to returning someone's lost object. Compare this to, let's say, Fable 3, where there's an expression system where you can dance, handshake, or do an assortment of good or bad actions to individuals, and based on those individuals and their traits, they will like or dislike those actions. While almost all the behaviors are comical and cartoon-like, it gives every NPC in the world of Fable an interactive element. Here, most of the people at the ball are, animated window dressing. A simple option to allow someone to believe in a collective opinion of the Inquisitor would have been nice. Like a series of small dialogues where you can be comical, serious, religious, non-religious, militaristic, or any number of responses to impact one's standing. We are, after all, schmoozing, lying through our teeth, fitting in, playing the grand game. The topics could have ranged from the previous actions we've run, like stopping the mages, or the Templars, or the Wardens, or even better, how much power or influence points you had at certain parts of the country, or any other topic that is intricately related to the character's story. As well, other topics related only to the Orlesian culture could have been looked at, allowing the player the option to learn beforehand, or perhaps just unlock a perk from influence points. The previous point of having influence and power points based on whether you strip mine the country or not should have had a direct correlation to the amount of influence you start off with at the ball. Instead, you always get 40 out of 100. You lose points if you're a mage, elf, Qunari, or dwarf, and I think you gain them if you're a human warrior or rogue. Additionally, we should have been granted teaching or some sort of techniques from Leliana, who's a bard, who made an entire life playing the deadly game, or Candle Girl, who, I don't know, maybe you could earn some favor from certain types of Orlesian nobles by talking to them a certain way. None of this ever happens, though, even though Leliana and Candle Girl would have been the perfect candidates for teaching us on how to fit into Orlesian culture. We then encounter some magical doors that can only be opened with halla statuettes? For a place that disdains mages, this seems really awkward. Are they all just like generic statuettes? Can't you simply remove them after placing them? Are they why can't you just use keys?
Is it true the Inquisitor was halled out of the Fade by Her Majesty?
Well, no, that's not true. It was like a Fade creature, and wait a second. Why can't we just go talk to that person? That sounds like an awesome story we can share that everyone would be blown away by. You know, me being the only dude who have ever physically entered the Fade and returned. I bet that story would turn a few heads. Okay, this door here needs a normal key. That's good to know that the hired help here doesn't always go around carrying wheelbarrows full of statuettes everywhere they go just to do a job. No wonder the elven hired help are so pissed off enough to be saboteurs. They just want to sabotage the magical doors.
Do you mind? We don't wish to be disturbed.
This is interesting because we are strategically placing ourselves to eavesdrop on conversations.
Any word from the front lines?
My spies said the bodies were beyond counting.
Surely the Empress will put an end to the war tonight.
Pray, my friend. If the Maker does not hear us now, just pray.
Okay, it sounds like a very loud Josephine ventriloquist is talking about the ending of a war. Okay, which war is this? Surely it's not the Civil War. That hasn't started yet, and we're kind of here to stop that from happening. Is there some other war we're not aware of? Okay, how did we get influence points from eavesdropping? Who did we influence? Okay, anyway, we find the storage room key and find some scandalous bribe. I don't know what that implies. The great blackmail hunt? How is this scandalous exactly? How do we know it's not a payment for services rendered? Are the elven workers hiding their bribes in the storage room? Is Celine? Is there a letter at least telling us who this is to and from? I mean, why would Leliana even care about this? Why should we care? How is this leverage? Are we even using it for leverage? I mean, are we going to judge people for taking bribes? Okay, maybe that's part of the law, I guess, being broken. But how are we an authority on that? Why are we picking up useless crap? Does this have anything to do with our court approval? How does this help us figure out who the assassin is? Would the court appreciate us sneaking around in locked rooms once we reveal this evidence? Is this a good or bad thing for us to be holding on to these things? Now, there's nothing wrong with having a scenario or series of, whereas the Inquisitor goes about snooping. We simply need to know what we're looking for and what said items actually are. We need to know their value. We could have been collecting pairs of shoes for Leliana to go gaga over, and it would be the same thing.
And shoes, of course. One can't mingle with nobility with bad shoes, you see.
We then find a caprice coin, which we're going to throw away. Why? Is the caprice the Orlesian form of currency? Will that get me court approval? Do I need 15 to unlock a door or something? Then we finally meet up with Candle Girl, who warns us about the grand game, which is a little bit too late.
I must warn you before you go inside. How you speak to the court is a matter of life and death. It is no simple matter of etiquette and protocol. Every word, every gesture is measured and evaluated for weakness.
Now, this implies there will be some gameplay where we control all of our dialogue and our bodily movements. I'm guessing when to bow, how to dance, that sort of stuff. Thus, we shouldn't be hitting the jump button or running through the halls or bumping into people for fear of people seeing us as a lunatic monkey. Everything is appearances. This is the MO we should be sticking to. Now, this is very important because what's coming up later will destroy all sense of believability in the narrative and its setting in showcasing of what the majestic grand game was supposed to be. BioWare can hire all the great dialogue writers and level designers they want. If they don't put it within the right context and give the player the right information, everything's for naught.
But the shoes. Living with those ridiculous trends was worth it for the shoes.